Okay, and then Sarah has some issues. She's going to be, checking in again. All right, so first of all, welcome. Welcome to our third session here. Today will be your first experience, or maybe not your first experience, but in facilitating an empathy circle. And we'll start by having you do the introductory explanation of how the empathy circle works. And I'll go over a little explanation. We'll go into breakout rooms. This will be a little different from our last thing. We'll go into some breakout rooms, and then everybody will have, in groups of 4, so everybody will have about 5 minutes to do an introduction, the how-to of the circle that we sent you, and then do your explanation, have a little time for feedback, and we go on, and then we'll see what, we'll do that round robin. So that's our first breakout room. That'll occur for about 20 minutes when we give each person a chance to do the how-to explanation. We'll come back and then we'll go into our circles today. We will have, today, we will split up, each person will have about 20 minutes to facilitate in our second round of breakout rooms. We've talked about, and we emailed you, Lou's descriptions of various facilitator challenges. I believe Edwin also has a page also detailing those things. And then when it's your turn to facilitate, you can say from 0 to 10, let's say, how much disruption you want. Also, let's not have too much fun. Everybody was having a lot of fun being disruptive and things like that. And so that's good, but that can and that's fine, and it was fun, but it also can kind of get us off track. So we'll just try to give each person an opportunity to do that. The next session, we will be doing this again. So if there's some unfinished business, or if you didn't have it, you'll have another chance to go through this again. Lou or Edwin, anything else you want to say?
No, I would say we kind of decided this time that when it's your turn to facilitate the empathy circle, the topic is your choice. So you'll get to choose whatever topic you would like to. So give some thought to that. And other than that, I think, I mean, when we get to doing the empathy circles, I might have a little more to say, but for now, that's fine.
Okay. So then I think we're here and we're ready to go into the how-to explanations in the breakout rooms.
Yeah, and we want groups of 3. You said 4, Bill, but I think we
4?
want groups of 3, yeah.
Okay, if we can, sure.
Oh, you haven't been making the rooms here. We have, what do we have? 12, 13
4,
participants.
6, 8,
so how do you want to?
13.
So.
Right.
So I guess we have a couple with 2. Or we could have we could have 4 groups of 3 and 1 extra person, and, Bill or I or you could maybe skip doing it so that the other 3 would get to.
I could skip.
No, I can skip.
I don't mind skipping.
Hey, wait a minute. Wait a minute.
I'm just here to help. I'll do whatever you say.
I'm happy to skip if it's a competition.
No.
Okay. No, that should be it. So we ready to go?
Not yet. I'm a little unclear. You're wanting rooms of 3, is that?
Well, we have 3 facilitators.
And it's okay if one of them is 4.
Okay.
Okay, sorry.
Because we have 13.
Right.
Maybe you can talk a little bit more, because I got to make
Sure.
these rooms.
Okay.
So you kind of jumped right into this.
So I'm curious if anyone has a question from last class.
Yeah.
That's been burning for them. No? Okay.
It was a great day the day I was born.
Did you have a storm? Did you have a hurricane?
No, I'm on the West Coast. We're not having a.
Right.
That's a trite that always wins the opening line of the worst novel in the world.
And so I'll just say, as a general outline for how it works, I usually think of it in terms of how does it work? How is it different than just kind of a regular conversation? And what might I do as a facilitator that people should just have a heads up that I might be doing? But I think those are kind of the three components that I include in when I'm doing an intro.
Sorry, Joshua is saying that his internet is a bit off and his sound is not working.
Oh, all right, Josh.
Yeah, I can hear it now. I had to relocate. Yep.
Okay, great.
Okay, so we have rooms of 3, and I'll join one of those. And so as I understand it, each person will just give the introduction, like how to do an empathy circle, and to the others. Then we'll just go around. And how long are we doing this for?
Yeah, so you have about 5 minutes to do the intro, and we're taking 20 minutes overall, but each person has about 5 minutes to give it, and then maybe get a little feedback from the people who are listening.
So we're talking 20 minutes for the overall
Right.
section. Okay, got it. All right, so opening all rooms. Yeah, I'll just be silent and record this room.
Okay. So we have 5 minutes each, and we're just going to introduce how to do for people who are coming for the first time. Whoever feels ready can go first.
I'm happy with doing the intro first, and I'll wait until Edwin can start recording, and then there we go. Awesome.
It's recording. Yeah.
All right. Well, welcome everyone to Empathy Cafe. Really appreciate you being here. Just to share a few words to introduce our process today and what we're going to do. Empathy Cafe, and just to first say that part of the reason why we do empathy circles or the Empathy Cafe is because this is a really simple and straightforward way of engaging the empathy process in our brains and bodies. We accomplish that goal by using reflective listening. And reflective listening basically means that you have a speaker and a listener, and we take turns in these roles, which I'll explain in a moment. But when someone is speaking, they might have a few minutes. Say today we're going to have a timer for 2 or 3 minutes, and they can, speak to, things that are coming up for them that feel alive in them right now, or it can be in reference to a particular issue that we want to talk about today. And as the speaker is speaking, the listener is carefully listening to the ideas and as well as like the emotions that the speaker is conveying to them. And at various steps, or rather, I should say, the listener takes time, to kind of pause the speaker to reflect back what they hear the speaker saying. And there are many different ways that you can reflect back what a speaker is saying. You can paraphrase, you can even repeat the words that the speaker is saying. Though, as people get more experienced with doing this, you'll learn that there are many, you can have very rich reflections to what the speaker is saying, where you're really getting it, you're understanding what the speaker is trying to convey to you and the rest of the group, and you're successfully reflecting back the idea as well as the emotional state of the speaker, or we can say the felt meaning that's involved in the message that they're trying to convey. Once the speaker is finished, they can say, oh yeah, I feel heard. thank you for hearing me. And then the listener becomes the next speaker. The speaker can always choose who their listener is. So, say that listener becomes the next speaker and they, ask someone else in the circle, would you be down for listening to me? And they can say politely yes or no. And then the cycle continues until everyone in the circle has the opportunity to speak at least once. Even though the structure of doing this is really simple, it can be really challenging for a lot of us to practice doing for the first time. So don't feel any hard feelings if it feels challenging. It genuinely takes focus in order to do it, and it is a new skill that takes time to learn like any other. So that said, if you feel like you're really struggling, or if you're saying something that's not a reflection, I might, just interrupt real quick and maybe I'll model, how to, reflect what the speaker might be trying to say. So just as a heads up, I might do that. One thing that makes this type of conversation unique is that we're not, when we're listening to speakers, we're not trying to ask them questions. We're not trying to give them opinions or analysis or even helpful suggestions about what they're saying. We're really trying to take the time to focus on exactly what it is that they're trying to communicate. And that also helps them focus on their own voice inside when we do that. That's part of the goal, of what we're attaining. So if you find yourself like, wanting to ask them a question or wanting to share some advice, I just say, hold on to that until it's your turn to speak. And that's a totally fine and appropriate time to maybe, share those things. Yeah, I would love to, hear any of your questions, or concerns before we get started. So that could be my introduction. I hope that's relatively inclusive. And yeah.
So we have a minute or so for feedback. Any comments before we move to the next one?
Zach, is it okay if I give you feedback?
Yeah, totally. Please.
I sensed a lot of care in your voice and really saw how you were really trying to explain it so that people are following, and also to care about how it could be difficult. So it's okay to just find it difficult, and that was very clear for me. As something that I would request, or probably you could do differently, is probably make it shorter.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Totally. Thanks. Yeah. And that's an interesting thing, right? So I have experience as like a community organizer, and we often do like a lot of like script-based work. And so it'd be interesting to kind of like write down like my version of the spiel and see where I could make it more succinct. So thanks for that feedback. That definitely makes sense.
Okay. I could go next, if that's okay with you, Sarah. Okay, great. So, hello everyone. Welcome to an Empathy Circle. This is a structured dialogue process, and it can be quite helpful if you're trying to have conversations in small groups around a topic, or sometimes something that is really alive in us. When I say structured dialogue process, the process is fairly simple. A circle can have about 3 to 5 participants, and the first person decides to speak, becomes a speaker, and then choose another person who they like to be heard by. So before I explain the process itself, there are 4 roles in this process. One is that of a facilitator, that is me at this moment. Then there's an active speaker, the first person who decides to speak up. There's an active listener who is chosen by the speaker who would reflect back. And then there could be a passive listener or a couple of passive listeners. So as I was saying earlier, the person who decides to speak first becomes the active speaker in the circle, asks one other person if they would like to listen to them, And if the listener agrees, then becomes the active listener. So typically, every person gets about 3 to 5 minutes. And this discussion, this dialogue between these two people, the active speaker and listener, goes on for that much time. As I said, it could be around a theme, or it could be anything that is very alive in you. So as a speaker, when you are talking to your listener, take pauses so that your listener can reflect back. Now, that's one of the roles of the listener, is to reflect back the essence of what you have understood the speaker say. And more about the listener role is that we are trying not to sympathize, advise, give solutions, fix problems. Our role is just to reflect back what we heard the speaker say. So in order to make this smooth, pause and check with each other if you're following the dialogue. After the end of 5 minutes, whenever the speaker feels that they are heard, and if the 5 minutes is not enough, as a facilitator, I'll put up the 5-minute card, so you'll know your time is coming to an end, which does not necessarily mean that you cut your conversation there. You can still finish off your thought and let the listener reflect back. And then at that moment, you can end your turn and let the circle know by saying, I'm fully heard. After this, the listener, the active listener, now becomes the active speaker. So we continue this process till everyone kind of gets a chance. And this is where the facilitator, the passive listeners, everybody becomes a participant, an active listener, active speaker, and passive listener. The only time I would play the role of a facilitator is when somebody needs support or we need to hold the process for some clarification. This dialogue continues for the allotted time of 60 minutes or 90 minutes. The role of a silent listener is also interesting. When the dialogue is happening between the speaker and listener, things could come up with us. So we could observe, we could reflect, and we could think about what comes up for us so that when our turn comes, we can participate and share what we have for ourselves. This is the process. If you have any more questions, I'm very happy to answer. And this is my explanation of how to do basic empathy circle.
Right on. It is okay, Anish, should I provide feedback?
Yes, please.
Right on. So yeah, no, I usually hesitate to go down the road of all 4 roles, but I feel like the way that you actually walked through them like made sense that someone like could follow it. And I can sense how like you and I both, I think this is probably a problem overall, like making it just like so pithy and snappy, you know, and succinct, right? You know, it's difficult to convey this in a succinct way, you know. So, but yeah, no, that was very cool.
Thank you.
I'll just mention something. One thing I'm kind of occupied with, and Jordan's having a lot of trouble, you know, connecting, and I'm dealing with sort of the technical stuff here. One thing I do say at the end is, it's like my presentation is always different. So, you know, it's like I'm always forgetting something, you know, or whatever. So, but at the end, I'll often say, and the best way is just to do it, and you'll see how it's done in the circle itself. So just as a point that you'll learn by just doing it. So that's something. Yeah. Sarah, any comments?
No, it sounded really good, and you sound like you prepared for it.
Yeah, and it's like there are things that we can do to like kind of hack the anticipation anxiety, like, you know, saying things like, all right, now let's make some mistakes, you know, and get right into it. And, you know, with the expectation that the facilitator is going to continue providing some explanations of how things are working as we actually do it, which I've always appreciated. That's always been my experience with Edwin and others, you know, while we're running with circles. So.
Okay, thanks. Shall we do the next one? Sarah, do you want to go?
Hi, welcome to the Empathy Circle. So I like to do a little explanation of an empathy circle practice. So you have a main speaker who takes a turn speaking and has someone reflect back. Everyone in the circle is listening, but they're selecting a person to reflect. And when the speaker is speaking, we're going to ask, one of the things we do is we ask you to pause. And then after the speaker is done, the listener becomes the new speaker. And then we basically go around the circle. And until everyone has a chance to be heard. And usually we do it long enough, so maybe there'll be 2 or 3 rounds. So everyone gets to experience the benefit of being, you know, a speaker and a listener. Sometimes feelings will come up, and that's perfectly fine. Yeah. I didn't prepare for this, so this is what's in my head.
Okay. There is this, did you get the handout too? There's this is the sort of the basic instructions. I can also send you the link to that. That's always like a good one for, in terms of, oh, is that the printout of that?
Yeah, so maybe I'll add some things based on that sheet. So I just want to give you a couple of tips when I'm being an active listener and active reflector. So basically, use your own words to reflect back the essence of what you hear the speaker saying. You need to refrain from asking questions. It's always best to not judge, not diagnose, not advise. So when it's your turn to speak, you can say whatever you want. And then the role of the silent listeners is to just be present for the exchange. You'll also have a turn to listen and speak.
Okay, any comments, feedback?
I mean, it's just like words of encouragement, Sarah. Like, you know, I get the sense that Anish and I both just did the intro like extemporaneously, you know, and just, you know, speaking for myself, like just having facilitated a few empathy circles, like just makes it so much easier to do that intro, you know, because you get forced to to mess it up. So, you know, it's like, it's great. You put together the thing, you know, and you haven't facilitated any circles yet, right? Am I being presumptuous? And okay, yeah, right on. So yeah, you're basically there. It's awesome.
I really enjoyed it because I could see how you were really coming with a playfulness. What was challenging for me was the quality of audio. So it was difficult for me to hear you well. Maybe that's another thing as a facilitator, we could just focus on how the audio also impact what we are saying. So it's a feedback for me as well.
I definitely have, I'm actually having to stand back from my computer right now. Usually I'm closer, but my phone jack is broken on this. So I would have to swap out my laptop for another. I would have to have my boyfriend rebuild a new laptop to correct the audio. So I'm trying to figure this out. So some logistics, also for computer safety. Yeah, I'm trying to figure out the audio thing. I totally agree. My MacBook is kind of old. It's not new.
However, I can hear you well now. Just,
oh, real?
I don't know what changed,
Okay.
but I can hear you well now. I don't know if it was true for others, but yeah, it is. It's better now. Thanks.
So I think we're back in about 3 minutes, right? Is anybody keeping time? I think we had 5 minutes each. So I'm just going to put a 3-minute notice, send that out. Yeah, so it's just a matter of practice, you know, just the handout. I see you were reading it, which I do often too. I just have that as my checklist. And the other thing I do sometimes, I say, I hope you looked at the video in preparation, because it's nice to have people prepared that this is, it's like in advance. I always make before you take part, you know, see the video, the the 9-minute video, or especially the 24-minute video, and see the handout. So I try to prepare people beforehand. And so what we're doing is just giving sort of a reinforcement of that. And then in small groups, I'll do the handout and just kind of read through it too, as sort of a checklist. So people have something in hand that they can reference too. So those are just some sort of strategies. But yeah, you just, and again, like I say, I just do it differently every time. So it's just a matter of practice. Yeah. So we've got 2 minutes. Any other thoughts about the presentation part before we go back to the full group?
Also, what I've realized is even though I sometimes forget instructions, the only person who knows that I've forgotten is me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So it's always nice to just come back to something that happens, and then you say, okay, that in the circle, this is one thing that we could do differently, and just bring it as a point at that moment.
Any thoughts from your experience, Zach?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, we didn't talk about necessarily like modeling, in front of people, and how, that could be done or structured, but, I mean, that's fairly straightforward how that can be modeled. And also, like, I imagine there, it would be helpful to have some structured instruction about basically, like, if there's a specific topic that the circle wants to cover, like some characterization of how to stay focused on that topic, basically. So for example, if we wanted to talk about like rent control housing policies, right? Does that mean like, oh, okay, we can talk about housing generally, is that still okay? And we could say that, like, okay, yeah, we're trying to talk about rent control, but if we're talking about housing generally, that's all right? But if you go into something outside of that wider bucket, then that's not following the topic. But it totally depends on the rules of the group, right? It's like, I understand that, typically for Empathy Cafe, the standing culture has been to allow, anything that's alive for you to come up, even if we are going for a particular topic.
Yeah. Sarah, we have 40 seconds left before we head back. You did some cafes with Bill. How did that go with the introductions?
Oh, he's great. He's really warm and personable, and always it's just pretty friendly. So
it's sort of the attitude. So just the attitude of giving the how-to seems to have a big effect, is kind of what I'm hearing there.
And he sometimes also shares his intro. He's a special ed teacher, and kind of comes across, in terms of creating a sense of safety for a diverse group of people.
Okay, see you in the main room. 1 second.
Oh, there's Ann.
Hey, Ann, you're having a lot of trouble connecting. Were you able to get into the room?
No, I've been waiting for half an hour.
Oh no, I kept I see you would drop out, and you'd come in, and I'd assign you to a room, and then it would say you weren't in the room. So
it just said I was in your waiting room, and just you'll let me in, just that blank message. And I thought maybe I had the wrong thing.
I kept seeing you come in, and I kept trying to add you, and it just some kind of technical glitch. So sorry about that.
Edwin, when you are in a breakout room and you have waiting room enabled, the host has to go back to the main room and let the person in from the waiting room and then put into a room. That's how it works.
Oh, so maybe we should turn waiting room off then.
Yes.
Yeah.
If you're not staying in the main room, then yes.
Okay. So that's good. I didn't know that. So sorry about that.
So welcome back, everybody. Hope you enjoyed doing your introduction practice. Yeah, it's, I've probably done an introduction, I don't know, probably 30, times, 50 times. And it does take practice to kind of figure out an efficient way to describe the different things that happen. And so I encourage you to do that, practice doing that. So we're going to practice again next week. So the next week or next class will have the same format. So we'll practice introductions again. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do in this session is break out again into breakout rooms of 4 to 5 people and actually do empathy circles. And during that practice, each of you will get a segment of time of probably about 20 minutes to be the facilitator of the circle. And when it's your turn to facilitate, you can choose what topic the circle is going to be on, and you'll be facilitator. Now, something that we something you'll have the option of doing as a way to, practice things that come up in circles. During the week, we sent you a list of the kinds of things that tend to happen in circles. Things like, the listener commenting on what the person has said, or giving their opinion, or giving advice, or asking a question, which is something the listener's not supposed to do. So if that happens in your circle, how do you respond to it? And so there was a whole list of challenges. So when it's your turn to facilitate, the instructor will ask, so do you want me or others to do some things during the circle, give you some challenge? So you can say, no, I don't want that, or yes, I would like that, and I'd like, let's say on a scale of 1 to 10, I'd like 3, or I'd like 7, or, in terms of difficulty. And so if you'd like some stuff to happen, for
does
you,
that make 10 the most?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, right. 10 is right. 10 is like, you're going to have to throw me out of the circle. Something like that, someone who's difficult and doesn't respond to any kind of, so that'll be an option. And we'll do that today, and we'll do it next session also. So it's totally up to you, what you feel ready for and what you would like in terms of having stuff happen. And then another option will be, if the instructor is taking a turn as facilitator, then others in the circle can do things to disrupt the circle for the facilitator, for the instructor. So Bill or Edwin, anything to add to what I've said before we go break out?
I'm more in trying to create these rooms. So we're looking at 4 people in a room with 1 facilitator, but the participants will have how long? Just kind of the logistics.
We have 3 instructors, so I think we're creating 3 rooms.
Okay, I got that.
And and then we're going to divide. People are going to take about 20-minute turns. We'll just divide up the time. We're coming back at noon, so that's like an hour and 55 minutes from now.
Okay. So are we ready, or was there?
I am, and Bill, unless you have something you want to say.
Well, just that I guess the trickiest thing you'll be doing now is keeping time, the 5-minute time. So remember, it's a soft close. Generally, what I do, you might do it a different way, it's fine. But I basically let my timer go. It has a little piano riff. Sometimes people hear it and they don't. And then I'm trying to basically balance between giving everybody the same amount of time, but also letting them feel heard. So I don't want to cut them off. So then I'll kind of give a visual reminder with my excellently artisanally designed. That's it.
So you want to go right into the circle. You just say what the topic is. It's 5-minute turns, and then they just facilitate that. And then they can say what level of conflict they want, 0 to 10.
Gotcha.
That,
Yes. Thank
okay.
you.
All right. I think we're ready.
Okay.
Open all rooms. And we're coming back at the top of the hour at 12 hour Pacific time.
Us? The intros? No, we introduced it for about, like how long did it take me to introduce the thing?
I just want it, don't worry. We're ready to
saying?
start.
Yeah.
Okay, who would like to facilitate the first one?
I'll do it.
Okay, go for it.
I don't have to explain everything again, do I?
No, you don't have to. We're just going right into the...
Yeah, okay. So who would like to speak first?
topic. What is the topic?
The topic is time.
Time?
Yes, time. You know, pace.
Okay, whatever comes up on time.
How slow or fast we go.
And what level of conflict do you want, or challenge? 0 to 10?
Medium.
Medium or none? Or if it's the first...
medium. Let's try medium.
Okay, medium conflict. So it's the idea here is it's just a little bit, not everybody, you know, attacking her, but we just give a little bit of challenge. So, okay.
Is the subject clear? Is that subject clear enough?
Yeah, I think I could start talking about it. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. I'd like to start.
Can I clarify? I thought you said the topic was time.
Yes. Time, but it can be whatever you want it to be. Topic is time, but if there's something else that you want to talk about, then that's fine when your time comes.
Sorry, I thought Anish was saying, you were just saying fear, but I probably misheard.
No, we didn't talk about fear.
Thanks.
Time. How fast and slow things go.
Yeah. Okay, I could start. I see that somebody dropped out. So, Edwin, would you listen to me, please? Or Anne, would you listen to me, please?
Yeah, I'd be delighted, Anish.
Okay. Yeah, I think the topic is very interesting. Time, if it's slow or fast. Actually, it depends. Sometimes when I'm doing things that I really love doing, time just flies. And then there are moments when I'm going through a painful time, it just looks like eternity. And what's fascinating about time is, I think, yeah, it just varies. So I don't really have a clear answer to it.
Okay, may I feedback? So,
sure.
So I hear that you're fascinated by time, and there are times when it absolutely flies by, and other times it can seem like an eternity. And I notice you're contemplating, being contemplative about it.
Yeah. So, yeah, it makes me very sad that why do the good times fly so fast? And why do the painful ones stay so long? It's very confusing. I think, yeah, that's all that I have to share at this moment. I'm very sad.
And particularly, you're very sad about the good times flying by. And why is it painful when go so slowly?
Yeah.
And you think that maybe that's all you have to share at the moment?
Yes, I feel complete.
I'd like to remind you it's fine for you to be silent if you'd like.
No, it's okay. I don't want to waste time. I want to give the time to somebody else. Thank you.
Okay, you don't want to waste time. You'd rather give it to somebody else.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Jenny, would you listen to me, please?
Yes, I'll listen to you.
And we've got 5 minutes, have we?
Yes.
Or not? Yeah. Okay. Time. There's never enough. I think as you get older, time accelerates. Yeah, the rate of time passing increases. Would be my main factor about time.
Okay, so the thing with time is that there's never enough of it, and you notice as you get older, it goes faster, and it seems that there's never enough of it.
Yeah, I think like every single year, I can't believe it's already August the 4th, and I've noticed that the days are now half an hour shorter, or the sun sets half an hour more quickly than it did. It seems 5 minutes ago, but and
Ooh, sunset. I just remembered something with sunset. Can I please share? I would really like to share.
Anish, it's not your turn to share. If you could hold on until it's your turn again, that would really work for the whole of the circle, because it's Anne's turn to speak now.
Yeah, but I didn't use my 5 minutes. Can I have some time back?
Yeah, but you lost them then, didn't you? So wait until it's your turn again, if that's okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Can you feed that back, please?
You'll have to go again, Anne, with what you were saying, because I can't remember that.
Well, that's not fair, is it? Being a devil's advocate here.
You were talking about how now it's August the 4th already, and the time has just, the year has just flown by, and now that the evenings are half an hour shorter, the sun's setting earlier.
Yeah, and I noticed too that, in fact, last October seems like 3 years ago. So as well as it going faster, it's just time distorts in all sorts of strange ways, in all sorts of directions. And it's too easy to use up time on something that I want to finish and not go to the next thing.
So you can't believe how fast it goes. Last October seems like 3 years ago. And it's very interesting the way time distorts and goes off in all sorts of directions. And you notice that things that you want to finish, you never seem to have the time to finish them.
Yeah, I kind of have this vision visually of, those distorting mirrors which make you look maybe really tall or really skinny or really fat. And time does that. It kind of, that's what I was meaning, like it's kind of like expands in weird ways or shrinks and stretches.
Time expands or shrinks or stretches, and I forgot to start the timer. So
I reckon it's my 5 minutes now.
Are you happy with that? Do you feel heard?
So.
Is there anything that you'd like to say again?
No, I'm feel heard. Thank you, Jenny.
Thank you, Anne. Okay, Joshua, would you like to listen to me?
I would, as long as the Wi-Fi holds up, yes.
Okay. I've actually started the timer this time.
Good.
Timer. One of the things that I'm really noticing with this whole process that we do in an empathy circle is that it seems to just slow everything down.
So, you just started the timer, and one of the things you've noticed with an empathy circle is that it just slows time down.
And when you slow things down, somehow there's more space. Everything becomes more spacious, and there's more time to enjoy.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, when I find time slowing down, I also get really excited, and there's just all these things that I want to do, and yeah, so I have a really good time with slow time.
Joshua, when you reflect back to me, could you reflect what I said to you rather than what you feel about time? Could you just reflect back what I was saying?
Oh yeah, sorry, I forgot. I was just used to not doing that. Yeah, so you were saying that time feels a lot more spacious when you're included in these empathy circles.
When time slows down, it seems to become more spacious.
So when it slows down, it becomes more spacious.
Yeah, and I have to agree with Anne that it's such a trickster of a thing, how it stretches and shrinks and goes fast when it's good stuff going on, and then really slows down when it's something tedious.
Yeah, so you're agreeing with Anne that, when you're enjoying it, time goes fast, but then when it's something that you're not enjoying, time seems to go really slow.
And I wonder about, I wonder a lot about deep time, about as humans, we've only been on the planet really a little bit. When you look at the time that's happened, since the Big Bang or whatever, we've only been here sort of a little bit of a second.
Yeah, so now you're thinking about like time as a whole, and that humans have only been here like really small amount, and what that might mean.
And the vast amount of time that's gone since, the universe began, if it did.
How long it's been since the universe began, if it even did begin.
And I also wonder about time, is it a sort of a straight thing? Because sometimes we see it as a sort of straight thing, that we're on a line, somehow it's straight. But then also it's very circular. When you think about the seasons, there's actually a very circular thing going on.
Yeah, so you wonder if time is just straight, like in a line, or if it's circular, kind of like the seasons.
Or both.
Or both.
One thing I notice, going back to the circles again, is when I'm speaking, the time seems to go on for hours. I feel like I've been speaking for hours now.
So you're noticing also in the circles when you speak a lot, or when you're speaking, it feels like it goes on and goes on.
But I feel fully heard, and I haven't got anything else to say.
Well, you're feeling fully heard. Great. Edwin, are you listening? Would you listen?
Yeah, listening.
Cool. So in regards to time, a few things came to my head, but I started thinking about the time banking and how in a bank, you receive something and you can put it into a bank and you can use it to buy something else.
No, I really like that concept of the bank, where you can kind of like set the time aside and then pull it out. Would be pretty cool. Yeah.
Edwin,
Huh?
could you just reflect back to Joshua what he was saying rather than what you like or don't like?
Oh, yeah. I don't remember. What did you say?
Yeah, I was saying that I thought about, this idea of a time bank, and how if you put, similar to a bank where you put money in and you can take it out and spend it on something, you could do that with time.
Oh, so you're thinking of time in terms of sounds like it'd be cool if there was a time bank where you could put the money in, the time into a bank and then pull it out when you needed it.
Yeah, and there are actually organizations that do this. So the principle is your hour is worth my hour. And if, let's say, I give you empathy, I get an hour, but it's in this agreed upon time bank. and I can use that hour with somebody else in the bank.
So if you offer, for an example, you could offer empathy to someone like me, and then that would go into this time bank, and then you could get that back someplace too from someone else.
Yeah, so instead of bartering, like I give you a service, you give me a service, you have a bank of 50, 100, 200 people, and we all agree that my 1 hour is worth your hour, you give me an hour, and I can use that hour to get another service from somebody else.
Oh, so it's sort of a time bank where you can, it's set up according to a time. You give a time, and then you can get the time back from someone else.
Yeah, and the hardest part of time banking is paying for rent. I don't really see, it works very well for services, but when it comes to trying to find a living situation, if you live there 24 hours, it kind of falls apart at that spot.
So it works in some situations, but not in all. Like, for example, paying rent. You know, how would it work for that? So it sounds like you're kind of thinking about that. How would you kind of deal with that?
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, with my university, we had a class-wide time bank, and we also learned that when you're told you need to do a time bank, it's not as fun, but it works well if I want to share a recipe and then I get time and I can get pictures taken from someone else and they can teach me how to cook. And I'd love to see this idea grow. And I'm just, thinking of how can you also live in a home in this society.
Yeah, so sound like you're really excited about this idea, and you'd like to have it grow, and so you're just kind of thinking about how to make it grow, but you really like it to work to help pay your rent. Sounds like.
Yeah, absolutely. And as somebody in more of a service field, a lot of people, maybe they're massage therapists, but they give time. The people who would be most into this won't be able to potentially make money. And so, if we could just figure out the living situation, it seems like this could work pretty perfectly.
Yeah, so the one sort of drawback is for the housing and living situation. So if you could just figure that out, it would be pretty good.
Yeah. And last thing, since I guess I still have some time, if you're still keeping track, is
got a minute.
I got a minute?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so my girlfriend's been talking about this idea of law of time, and that in the year, instead of there being 12 months, there's actually 13 noons. And there's of 28 days, so that's 364 days. And our calendar is 12 months because of like taxes and this Gregorian calendar, and just how that difference in concept has changed the way we see the world.
Oh, so different calendar systems change how you see the world. So it could be sort of a lunar calendar or tax calendar, or what have you. So you're just sort of aware of that effect.
Yeah, absolutely, and I feel heard.
Okay. Then speak to Anish.
Yes.
Yeah, time. I know is, when I was younger, it seemed like I was looking forward into time. Like, oh, there's this time for me to do all these things. And it's like I had this forward sense. And it was like a sense of spaciousness. Like, oh, I've got all this time I can kind of make mistakes, or I can do kind of things, that maybe don't work or whatever, because I've got time, ahead of me.
Yeah, as a kid, you had this impression of having all the time where you could do anything, including mistakes, and just pay and just enjoy all this time that you had ahead of you.
Yeah, and not just as a kid, but even more recently, until my 50s maybe. But now I'm like almost 65, and it's like, I'm losing that sense, right? It's like, oh, I've got maybe, who knows, could die at any point, I guess, but that space ahead it doesn't feel like it's there. It's a shift. It's kind of I don't have that sort of feeling anymore, and I kind of miss it.
Yeah, and you had this feeling till you were in your 50s, and now that you're 65, there's a shift in the thought process and it does not seem same. It looks like that you may not have all that spaciousness all the time there.
Yeah, and for like with the empathy circles, it's like, I would love to have that time, those 30, 40 years and be doing what I'm doing now and say, I'll have all this time to develop this practice and sort of explore it and expand it and, spread it. And now I don't feel like I have that. It feels a little sad somehow. It's like, oh, what have I got? 20 years, 15, 20 years if I'm very lucky, and who knows, but yeah. So.
Yeah, so you probably contemplate about the fact that if you had these 30, 40 years ahead of you and you could have done something different with the empathy and the empathy culture, keeping in mind the 15 or 20 years that you're considering yourself lucky to be with.
Yeah. The other thing in terms of time is one of the blocks to spreading the empathy circle, like especially in healthcare and even in education, is people say, we don't have time for this. We don't have the time, the hour. We don't have, especially 2 hours, and we don't have time for this. Everything's got to be kind of fast, and so that's one of the challenges that I keep hearing about the empathy circle is we don't have time in what we're doing.
Yeah, and when you think about the work with empathy or building empathy culture, especially in certain sectors like education and healthcare, you keep hearing people saying that we don't have time. There's no time to do this. So that's something that we find interesting.
Yeah, maybe there's some way of sort of explaining it. It's like it's like sort of framing the circle in terms of time, right? It's like enjoy your time or have more time by doing empathy circles or something. You know what I mean? It's kind of like appeal to the spaciousness that Jenny is talking about that you get. You'll get this, you'll get extra time taking longer time in the empathy circle or something because of the spaciousness or some, there's probably some way of using that for marketing or something.
Yeah. And the idea that comes into your head is that in a way to make it more popular or at least present it, one of the ways could be saying that by bringing in empathy circles into your practice, you will create spaciousness in the times ahead. So it's a nice practice which creates that space and connection for more spaciousness to happen.
Yeah, I feel time's out, over. I feel heard.
Yeah. I mean, just a quick question. I don't know who's tracking the 20 minutes or what.
I am. We have 3 minutes left.
Okay, great. So, Joshua, would you listen to me, please?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. I think now I'm very angry because I really wanted to talk about the sunset, and Anne was talking about it. I have completely forgotten, and I wish that Jenny had let me speak at that time.
Yeah, so it sounds like you're feeling angry because you wanted to talk about the sunset, and you said that Anne was talking about it, and then Jenny. Is that right?
Yeah, yeah. And then I want to talk about the time bank because that's such an interesting topic. I really, really feel fascinated about it, and it's such an amazing concept.
Yeah, and you want to talk about the time bank because you're really fascinated about this concept.
Yeah, and then when Edwin started talking about how he has a shift in perspective about time, that makes me wonder how much time do I have and what do I do with the time?
Yeah, so reflecting on Edwin talking about time, you also questioning how much time do I have and what am I going to do with this time?
Yeah, so I have so much celebration that a topic as simple as that brought me so much perspective and such diverse perspective about the subject.
Yeah, and you're grateful that this topic was able to give you such a diverse perspective about this topic that you didn't really imagine would happen.
Yeah, and in my head, I was like, okay, role play. It's about role playing so that Jenny gets more practice. I forgot everything because the topic became so interesting.
So you're trying to get into the role-playing idea for Jenny, but then you just kind of forgot everything because the topic was so interesting.
Yeah, I think that's what I have to share.
Okay, we have 1 minute. Any sort of feedback about this for Jenny? Any comments?
Jenny, what number did you pick? I must have been out of it.
5.
Oh,
Number.
5.
What number?
Yeah, 5.
Medium.
Yeah,
She
okay.
she said moderate.
Yeah,
Oh.
middle. Yeah.
I think you
Yeah.
did well. Yeah, you handled it well.
Did I? Was I rude?
No, not necessarily.
It was okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed the, even when you were strict, you had the smile and warmth, which is very comforting and a very playful way of doing it. So that was very nice. I enjoyed it.
Great, thanks.
Okay. Who's next? 20 minutes.
I could go.
All right.
So the topic is climate change and our diets. And who would like to go first?
High level of challenge.
Oh, yeah, give me 5. Sounds good.
Ooh.
Was that what she did? No? Okay.
I was kind to her, so.
You're kind. All right. Do 5 out of 10. Let's try it. So remember the rules that we all went through. The agreements. Who would like to go first?
Just a 1 second. There's a lot of background noise coming from someone. I don't know who it is.
Just finding pots and pans.
Yeah.
It could be my girlfriend right now, but I'll mute it while I'm not. Yeah, she took a class. It's almost over too. So.
Okay, great. Thanks.
So who would like to go first? Anne, would you like to go?
No, it was good. Really good.
I'll happily go. Anish, would you listen to me, please?
Love to.
Hold on, what was the topic again?
The
Climate
topic.
change and diet.
Oh, climate change and diet. Was that it? Okay, so yeah, I thought I'd go because I've just spent the long weekend with my daughter, and found myself getting a bit triggered around food, and I've noticed that that's happened a few times recently. I'm annoyed when people eat excessive amounts of food, like more than their body needs, like too much protein. And my the other daughter's boyfriend the other day, he was eating, I think maybe he had some meat and a couple of eggs and cheese with something. And I just think, this is ridiculous. You know, we need a little bit of protein, and we need a little bit of protein often. But your body can't use all of that protein all at once. It's like, this is indulgent, Western, overprivileged.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I mean, they're trying to be
I'll
like,
pause.
Yeah. So, and what I hear is that over the weekend, you kind of witnessed an incident where it was about food, and witnessing that incident kind of came back to this question that how much food do we really require? And you get really irritated by people who eat more than what they require or what their bodies require. So when you saw your daughter's boyfriend eating more than what his body needs, that kind of made you very, very upset.
Yeah, I wouldn't say I was very, very upset, but I was noticing about it, and it's happened several times recently. And it's always been when I've been with my daughters and maybe their partners, and just, I think that I've become more frugal and more careful. I eat fish sometimes, but generally I eat a pretty vegetarian and plant-based diet. And I think that we kind of need to do that on the whole. And I really believe in eating nutritious food and using food to help us be healthy and well. But actually, I find myself quite annoyed by people not, come on, get with it.
Yeah. Yeah, you're quite annoyed by what you see, and you would really like people to go to plant-based and fruit-based diet and not eat meat.
I don't mind people eating some meat, and I don't mind. I kind of, I'm basically vegetarian, but I'm not really kind of incredibly strict. I don't eat meat, and I don't mind if people want to eat meat or what they want to do. I just think the excess is it's just not acceptable when there isn't enough. You know, there are so many millions of people without enough food on the planet, and the way it's devastating our planet.
Yeah. Yeah, what
Oh, shit.
Hi, everyone. So I know we're on an online platform, but I just want to remind you all to keep the conversations to when it's your turn to talk, even in the chat box as well, if you're going to address everybody. Thank you.
Wow, somebody actually wrote that.
And you still have about a few seconds, Anne, if you'd like to finish.
No, but I've completely forgotten what Anne was saying because of what Edwin wrote. So, and what I heard is, I'll still try. I really won't do this. I hear that. I don't know what I heard. I just see. Yeah. Okay. I hear that you would really like to, it's not that you're a vegetarian. You do eat meat sometimes. However, you're very mindful of how much you consume, and you would also like to care for the population on this planet and be very mindful about how people make their choices as well. That's what I understood.
Yeah, no, I am a vegetarian. I don't eat meat, but I do eat fish.
Okay.
And I don't mind if people want to eat meat in sensible amounts.
Okay. So you're a vegetarian. Sometimes you eat fish, and you don't mind people eating meat if they wish to.
Wonderful. We'll be wrapping it up since Anne's the 5
Yeah,
minutes.
but the last bit's important. But it's like I don't think we have the right to eat excessively.
Okay.
And any human being on the planet.
Yeah.
And are you feeling heard, or can we give Anish one more time to give it a try, and then move on
Just
to
that last bit,
somebody else?
Yeah. And what you would really like people to do is be aware of how much their body needs and consume as much as it requires, not excessively.
Thank you. I feel heard.
Cool. Anish, you can pick the next listener.
Yeah. Joshua, can I just say that nobody types or writes anything in the chat? Because very scared.
Nobody writes anything in the chat?
Yeah. Just want Edwin to write anything in the chat.
So you're asking that for the group, if you guys are not, just please don't use the chat currently while Anish is speaking. Is that your request? Okay,
yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you, everybody.
Okay, Jenny, can I speak to you?
Yes, please do.
Yeah. Okay. Listening to Anne was very challenging for me because I'm a meat eater. And I think I have all the right to eat as much as I want to because I only have one life. And time is also running out. So I would really like to enjoy as much as I can. And I'm a foodie at heart.
So you found it quite challenging listening to Anne because you're a meat eater and you think that you want to eat as much meat as you like because time is running out and you enjoy it and you want to enjoy it while you can.
Yeah, and it's not just about meat, it's also about food. Like for me, food is about creating memories. And food is a way for, especially in my culture, food is a way to connect with other people and celebrate and enjoy.
So food for you is about connecting with other people. It's about pleasure, and in your culture, it's definitely a way of connecting and being with other people. Mm.
Yeah, and one thing, and I have a partner who is from a different culture. She's from Russia, and I have seen sometimes the food on a plate. Like she eats like a sparrow. She has very little food, And my plate is usually much fuller than at least 2 or 3 times more than what she eats.
Oh, you're like me then. I eat far too much.
Yeah.
Jenny, can we keep if you're the active listener, just you want to remind everybody, the active listeners just repeat back as close to what they can, what you heard on each say.
Okay, sorry, Joshua. I got excited about food there.
It's all right.
Your partner is from Russia. She's from a different culture, and she eats like a sparrow. She always has a small amount on her plate, whereas you tend to load up. You always got a lot more.
Yeah. And on a serious note, I kind of started researching about it, and I realized that our conditioning, especially in the Indian context, the conditioning of many of our generations come from, and it's a phenomena that has been observed, that our portion size that we serve in the restaurant, or we serve in a buffet, or we serve at home, is much, much, much bigger than what the body really requires, as Anne said.
So you've been doing some research around it, and you realize that generally in the restaurant or in the fake portions that people are serving are much, much bigger than the body actually requires.
Yeah, and that has something to do with at least last 300 or 400 of years of something what we call as drought mentality, where food was very scarce and there was not enough food ever to be stored away. There was just enough food that was available in front of us. So over and over years of conditioning led to the fact that whatever you have it now and you enjoy it, because tomorrow you don't know where the food is going to come from.
So you think that this has come from the last 300 or 400 years of a lot of the time you don't know where your next lot of food is going to come from. So whatever you've got now, that's what you've got. So you really make the most of it and have a lot of it.
Yeah. And when I was reading this, I was like, wow. And I don't think Anne really likes what I'm saying. So I'm gonna stop talking now.
This is still Anish's turn. Do you think you'd be able to wait until Anish is done speaking? He still has a minute left.
So you think Anish isn't, you think that Anne doesn't really like what you're saying?
Yeah, because she's now, okay, I don't want to look at Anne. I just want to say that, yeah, it's my life and I'm going to eat as much as I want and as much as I can.
It's your life and you're going to eat as much as you want and as much as you can.
Thank you. I feel heard.
All right. Jenny, would you like to pick someone to listen?
Yes. Edwin, would you like to listen to me?
Oh, listening.
Okay. Climate change and food. I think we really, junk food really gets on my nerves. I really don't like junk food. I tell you what I really don't like. I mean, I don't go to, Subway or Kentucky Fried Chicken or McDonald's. I don't go to those places. But I do have to go to the supermarket. And I just can't believe it when I walk down an aisle and there's 36 different kinds of cheese. What is that about?
Yeah, so you're not a real fan of junk food, feel sort of outraged by junk food, and also upset about all the variety of cheeses, like don't like cheeses.
Well, that was just an example, but you could say it about, the ham or the dog food or the beans. It's just there's so much choice when you go in a supermarket. And when I lived in Africa, it was like you went to the shop and there was some tomatoes and some chilies and some rice and maybe a tin of tuna, and that was it. That was all the shop had.
Yeah, so you don't want all this choice. You just want it just no choices. Just make it simple.
Well, there's in some ways I like the choice, but in terms of what's happening in the world and how we produce all this different food, we need to simplify if we're going to look after the climate. We need to simplify the way that we eat if we're going to look after the climate.
Yeah, I just think to look after the climate, we need to simplify our lives and not make it so complicated and you know, have so much choice.
And about talking about junk food again is the way that kind of all those processed foods, the way that they are produced and manufactured, what actually happens for that to get to the supermarket is a big deal, especially if it involves chopping down rainforests to grow palm plantations for the palm oil to go in your shitty biscuits.
Yeah, I'm really upset about the chopping down of forests and creating palm, you know, plantations just to have that in my biscuits.
And it's a whole system of food production which only serves a few people in the world, actually. And people have lost the ability to grow their food locally.
Yeah, so you're feeling outraged by this whole overall big system and you just want it sort of local, simpler, and not so something that does such damage to the environment.
That's right, yeah. And I think eating fish is terrible. The oceans are in such a state, you know, and they've been so overfished with these huge trawlers that just take everything and kill loads of stuff.
Yeah, so you're just really outraged at these other people like Anne and Anish who eat fish, and you're just kind of outraged at that because they're like destroying the planet. And
can you hear me? I know you might be new to this. I don't know if you've ever been a part of an empathy circle, but we just want to repeat back exactly what Jenny said again. I know you've probably never done anything like this.
So just repeat back, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, as close as you can get, yeah.
Okay. So you want to say that again, Jenny?
Go ahead, Jenny.
You know, I don't think eating fish is a very good idea because the oceans are in such a state. They're very acidified and all the fish, it's been overfished with huge trawlers, so there's not a lot left. So at this point in civilization, it's quite a good idea to leave the fish alone.
Yeah, we should leave fish alone. They're overfished and a lot of problems there.
Yeah. Okay, I feel heard.
Okay. Well, I'd like to speak to everyone, just whoever wants. So if you could.
Yeah. For this specific empathy circle, you know, there's different ways to do circles, but for this one, we just have one active listener. So would you like to pick just one person to listen?
Yeah, I'll speak to you then. And since we have just a minute and a half, maybe we can just do a debrief. Maybe end there. We have for your turn. So should we just open it?
Yeah, we can. Yeah, you said we only have a minute and a half. Yeah, so we can debrief.
Okay. So yeah, does anybody? We have a minute and a half just to debrief. Joshua's facilitating.
Mm-hmm. I was really glad when you jumped in at that point when Edwin started saying that I was disagreeing with Anne and Anish. I was really glad that you jumped in because it made me feel very uncomfortable when Edwin did that. I thought, oh God, I've got it wrong. So thank you.
There's like a technology glitch. I heard Edwin say like when he was summarizing, and I was going to like interrupt, but I think with my headphones, you didn't hear me say anything.
No, we didn't. So. I saw you speak, but I didn't hear you. So something, yeah.
I'm glad I stepped in when I needed it to be. Anne, go ahead. I can't hear you.
You're muted.
I think we gave you a harder time than a 5, to be honest. I think we were right up at 9. But maybe Edwin could scale that for us. You had so many challenges.
Yeah, it's difficult on the computer with different kind of things than in person, like your folder. Oh God, what was that? No thanks. What do you think it was, Edwin? I guess is that what you're asking for?
Yeah, it was about 5, 6.
We didn't have to kick anyone out. I wasn't planning on doing that, so.
I mean, the 10 is like a mediation where people are screaming and yelling, and yeah, that's like. But yeah, I've had that happen. People post in the chat room, and how do you deal with that? You know, I thought it went well, and you posted there. You kind of cut that off. So I thought, yeah, it seemed to.
I thought you did very well.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have thought of looking at the chat. I mean, because I don't have the. Do you have the chat up at the side of you all the time?
Yeah. It gives a little notice too.
Yeah, I have it up, or I had it up inside.
Okay, so let's do the next one. I was just want to keep us on track here.
Thank you all. Who wants to go next?
Since Anish is having trouble, maybe Anne, you could go. You're muted.
This evening, our circle is on money, and we're going to have 5 minutes each, and I'll set the timer. You've already all heard your introduction to the method. When you're 5 minutes up, I'll hold up my phone to give you an indication. It'd be quite nice if you could just indicate that you've seen it, and then just round up your sentence, what you're in the middle of, and we'll move on to the next person. Who would like to go first?
I can go. Jenny, would you like to listen?
Okay, yes.
What level of challenge you didn't
yeah,
hear?
That's right.
Well, if that was 5, I'll stick with 5.
With what?
If that was 5, I'll stick with 5. Thank you very much, because I thought that was harder than a 5.
All right. So.
All right, 6.
What's the subject?
Money.
Money.
Mm-hmm.
Money.
Yep.
Yes.
All right. I'm ready to start the timer. So since we're talking about money, I've already talked about time banking, which I do think is in line with this. But I really want to go back to this idea that Harari talked about with, the origins of money, and really that money was created so that we could have currency and exchange it outside of our community.
So you've already been talking about money when you were talking about the time bank idea, which you really like. But now you would like to go on about, talk a little bit about Harari. Is that Noval Harari? Who talked about the origins of money as being a way of exchanging outside of your own community.
Perfect. Yeah, this comes from the book Sapiens, but basically before money, we had land that we would be on and we would help, grow, and we'd have fruit and vegetables and maybe farm animals. But as we decided that we wanted to move and go away from our land and family and community, we decided to use symbols. And over time, those symbols got smaller and smaller so we could carry them and bring them to other places.
Okay, so it was the book Sapiens that you got this information from. And, when we were kind of living in small communities, when we were just, we were growing our food and we were just exchanging within that community, there was no real need for anything. But it was when we started to move and go to other places that we had to have some kind of symbolic exchange. And that got smaller and smaller so that we could carry it around easily.
Yeah, and can we stop the time? I don't think Anisha's listening to me. I mean, I can't even really see his face.
I'm sorry, Joshua, but Anisha's got bad connectivity, so he will stay on the call. and he's turned off his camera so that he's got more chance to continue to listen, and he is actively listening as much as he can.
Okay.
Would you like to carry on?
Yeah, sure. If you could just give me more time, that'd be good. So basically, this idea of money has allowed us to globalize our behavior, and I am concerned that, if we all have a ton of money, that we could just finance the destruction of, a lot of beings in faraway places without really noticing.
So I don't remember the first bit of what you said.
Anish wasn't listening to me. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm listening to you. But apart from that, there was something about if we all had loads of money,
Mm-hmm.
you think it would kind of accelerate the destruction of the places far away from us that we can't see.
Right. Like if, these multi-billionaires, if we just put out all of their money equally to everybody, and everyone then had enough money to buy cars and buy houses and do all of these things, then we would run out of resources very quickly.
Mm. So if the multi-billion, zillion, trillionaires, if all the money that they have was shared out equally amongst everyone, and everybody had houses and cars and that kind of Western lifestyle, the planet would run out of resources really quickly.
Yeah, exactly. And so I'm not saying that people should have way more money than other people, but it is a concern that if we continue to see the dollar as a certain value, that it will just be used, to destroy the world to our chagrin.
So you have to repeat it.
I'm just saying, I'm not saying that billionaires should have all this money. I'm just concerned that if all the money in existence was all spent at the same time, then that would not be good for the environment. My time's done. Yes.
So you're not saying that the billionaires and zillionaires should have all that money, but you're just concerned that if everybody had a lot of money, it wouldn't work for the planet to be sustainable.
Yeah, that's it. Thanks. I feel heard.
Okay, Jenny, would you like to choose your listener?
Yes. Anne, will you listen to me?
I'd be delighted to.
Okay. Well, I kind of echo a bit what Joshua said, I think, about it being, originally it being much more like a gift. I love the idea of gifting rather than money. I like that whole kind of potlatch thing where the big man, the strong man, the one who was most powerful, was the one who gave everything away.
Okay, so you like that idea of I'm not sure if it was potlatch.
I think it's
where the most powerful man would give everything the most away.
Yeah.
And you'd like to echo what Joshua was saying about gift rather than actual money, that you like that idea.
Yes,
Gifting.
I do. Yes, gifting. I love the idea of being able to receive what I need without having to have money for it, in a sort of in a culture of trust, where it's trusted that I get what I need, but I give what somebody else needs, and that there's a circle of giving there that works beautifully without the need for currency.
You'd like the idea of being like a circle of giving without the need of currency, and based in a culture of trust.
Yeah. Yes. And one of the things that amazes me about our modern money system is that it's so illusory. I mean, the banks just sort of put these noughts in, and it's all pretend. It's a real house of cards. It's not based in anything real.
So the money system, you see,
Yeah, it's just kind of all made up, you know. I mean, it's just kind of ridiculous,
excuse
right?
me, Joshua. It's actually Jenny's turn at the moment, and
Yeah, I
while
know.
she's speaking, I'm the active listener at the moment. And if you could help to hold the space and listen attentively, but not to speak.
I am listening attentively. That's why I just said something.
So if you could silently listen, and I will reflect back. You'll get a chance to speak when it's your turn. Jenny, I'll add a bit of time onto your 5 minutes.
That's very kind.
So, sorry for the interruption.
No worries.
You were talking about, if I can reflect back now, is that okay?
Yes.
About it being a bit like a house of cards, and the whole money system at the moment is really rather illusory. And you like the idea of the circles, and you prefer that, but in the circles of trust and giving culture. If you need to add, please do. I'm afraid I was a bit distracted.
Yeah, you know, the way the system works at the moment is just, it's sort of a complete, actually it's a sham, it's nothing, it's just people deciding to put noughts into a computer, and it's not based in any material reality.
Yeah, so the way our system works at the moment is just like almost noughts being added on a computer system. It's not based in any material reality. It's a sham.
It's a sham. But it actually, a lot of the time, it actually is based in a material reality. But you know, the financial system and the power systems pretend it's not, because it has to come. A lot of it comes from resources which they don't count when they poison the seas and chop up the mountains to get coal and dig into the earth to get oil. They don't. That's not counted as anything of value.
So what I'm noticing you're saying about the difference between the resources really that matter and that are being used, like digging to get oil, digging through coal to get oil and extract that. I'm sorry, we've lost Anish. He had a bad connection. Hopefully he'll come back. And it matters because we actually are using those resources, but attention isn't paid on the costs being on the resources. It's just in this illusory money system, and which is not real.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
And that is your time now.
Okay, that's good. Perfect. Thank you,
Okay.
Anne.
Thanks, Jenny. Edwin, would you
Listening.
listen to me?
Yep, listening. Do you hear me?
Okay, so yeah, I was just checking on Anish's message.
Yeah, he was just struggling. He had a power outage, and so
I don't know if he'll be back. He may be. Okay, so money, and I choose it.
Money.
Actually, Edwin, if you wouldn't mind just feeding back what I say, that would be nice. If you could
okay.
focus on what I'm saying. Thank you.
So just
I'd
focus on
appreciate
what
that.
I'm saying, and I'd appreciate it.
Thank you. And
thank you.
So, well, that's really distracting.
That's very distracting. That's very distracting experience.
Okay, Edwin, thank you for echoing what I'm saying, but what it would be really nice if you allow me to speak for a while, and then when I pause, I will, you will then get an opportunity to feedback what I've said. I won't speak for too long at a time, but then I'll be able to think what my thoughts are.
Okay.
So if you wouldn't mind.
Yeah, so you'd like to me just to feedback, you're going to share a little bit, and then you can kind of think about what you're thinking about.
Yeah, and then if you feedback after I've paused, that would be nice if you do that from now on. Thank you.
Feedback what you're saying, and you're grateful for that.
So when I've finished a piece that I'd like you to feedback on, I'll say I'll pause now, and that'll give you the opportunity to then feedback. So I had this idea of having an empathy circle on money a while ago, and it's been really interesting to hear what people have come up with. I find it totally fascinating, this process of the empathy circle and opening up discussions on difficult areas, on things that we don't normally talk about. I'll pause there for you to reflect.
Okay. So yeah, it's like you really find it fascinating, the empathy circle, and bringing up topics that we usually don't talk about.
And I also talked a bit before that about choosing money as a topic, that I had that idea. Do you remember that bit?
Yeah, you're wondering if I remembered that you had talked about choosing money as a topic.
Yeah.
And you're really wondering if I remembered it or not.
Okay. So I think my original reason for wanting to talk about money was that I think that we carry quite a lot of distress around money, and we don't behave very rationally about it. And I think that it links probably into our early experiences of money.
So you think that we don't talk about money because there's a lot of stress around it, and it relates to some of our earlier experiences as maybe children or something?
Yeah, and that we don't behave rationally around money.
So it's not we don't behave rationally around money. There's sort of an irrational aspect to it.
Yeah. And I think for myself, I was brought up quite poor. There wasn't much there, and I think, and I've always earned whatever money I've had, even when I was a child. But it's taught me the value of money and to be careful. But also, it's meant that I've tended to save money to make sure I'm safe, so that I've got a reserve. And I don't think I act very rationally about it.
So you think that you don't act rationally about it because you grew up poor, and you always really try to save, so you're for rainy day, sort of. So
Thank you, Edwin. I feel heard. It's your turn to choose a listener now.
Okay. We have I'll speak to Joshua.
Listening.
Yeah, what do I have to say about money? I think we need universal basic income, for like in the United States, they just handed out $1,200 to every citizen, and it's sort of like universal basic income, and they might do it again. So I think, especially during this COVID time, that it'd be really good to do that. Maybe even $1,000 at least a month, to kind of equalize the income distribution.
Yes. So you think that there's a need for universal basic income in the U.S. and that, with this crisis, that we've been able to get $1,200, and they might do it again. And even if there was something like $1,000 a month to help equalize.
Yeah, it'd be everybody would get it as long as you're a citizen. If you have $1 billion, if you're Bill Gates or Jeff Bezos or whatever, or you're, you know, just totally have, everybody gets the same amount. So sort of create a sense of equality, I think, you know, a feeling of equality, that everybody gets this, and maybe cut back on some of the social services or whatever, but that, you know, that you have this sort of floor, financial floor.
Yeah, so you're saying no matter what your income is, we'll all have some equality, and that we're all getting the same amount. So there is some sort of financial floor that can take care of people.
And the other thing is like this work around, you know, empathy that we're doing here. I've noticed that everybody who's in this field is kind of like struggling. You know, it's just like the culture doesn't support sort of empathic work. You can be a therapist or something, you know, where you're sort of picking up the pieces, sort of healing, trying to heal the casualties of the overall system. But, you know, and so you're kind of doing sort of, you know, helping the casualties of it, but there's nothing to really kind of like be spreading sort of an empathic way of being. So the culture does not seem to spread it. It's more, yeah, support that spreading of it.
Yeah, so you're noticing that people that are in this empathic realm that aren't just kind of picking up the pieces as therapists, but that are actually spreading a culture of empathy are really struggling to get paid financially.
Yeah, the system does not, you know, I mean, it supports soldiers, right? It's like you can go out there and be a soldier. It supports the police, but it's not supporting sort of this constructive, empathic spreading, you know. And I think that we need to do nonviolent direct action to sort of coerce the government to put resources. So instead of this Black Lives Matter, I would love to see it like, hey, you know, we need empathy for everyone. That's, you know, yeah, I think that would be a better sort of a movement. And maybe we'd have to create it ourselves, you know, that like occupy the Capitol Mall, you know, in front of the Congress and say, we want, you know, more money. We want $20 billion for, you know, empathy, spreading empathy circles in the schools and institutions and, you know, whatever.
Yeah, so you're saying that, you know, the system supports police and it supports the military, but it's not really supporting this empathetic role. And, you know, instead of maybe this Black Lives Matter movement, if we were all to focus on spreading empathy movement, that could do a great deal. And I actually agree with that. And, you know, I've been doing a lot of research on my own, and I think that could really make a big impact, you know,
yeah, I think
not just our world, but on other worlds. Yeah, we could work together maybe.
Yeah, let's do it.
Excuse me,
Yeah.
Joshua.
Let me get your number.
If you wouldn't mind just listening and then feeding back, so
Sorry.
Edwin is heard and he knows that you've heard what he said, and it establishes the understanding rather than join the conversation. This isn't a conversation. You've got a chance to talk about what you think about when it's your turn.
Okay. All right. Did you felt heard?
Yeah, I thought, yeah, okay. I felt pretty understood, and I'm looking forward to working together with you on this project too.
Yeah, and you're looking forward to working together on this.
Yeah, yeah. Let's exchange numbers, and yeah, we'll do something together. We'll occupy the Capitol Mall together. You know, we'll set up some empathy tents in front of the White House. You know, we're gonna hang out there until they. I think if Joe Biden wins, we should occupy, you know, have the tent like right in front of the White House and say, we demand an empathy circle with Joe Biden. Yeah, because he says he's for empathy.
Edwin, hi Edwin, that's your time.
Oh, okay.
Now.
Can I get a final reflection?
So you're saying that we should work together and that we should set up an empathy tent outside the White House, and especially if Joe Biden wins, since he says he's for empathy, we should get a tent out there and hold an empathy circle.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, I feel heard. Thanks. So we've got 10 minutes, maybe just do a debrief, just any sort of thoughts on the facilitation. You know, we lost Anish, so we have some extra time.
Well, one thing, I was laughing hysterically when Edwin was like interrupting you. And I think now that I could just press mute that, you know, that wasn't an issue, but I am a kind of laughy kind of person. And I could see how it could distract from the circle. Like I could laugh for minutes. So I don't I don't know how you would have handled that, but I just kind of muted myself. But would have been interesting.
I think Anne had quite a tough time there.
Yeah.
Are you all right, Anne?
Yeah, I'm fine. I'm just looking to see if I could have muted Edwin, but I don't think I could.
No,
Just a
you
minute, let me
can't. You
see.
have to be a co-host to be able to mute someone.
Yeah. Okay. To be honest, I thought you gave me an easier time than the others.
Yeah. A little bit.
But and Edwin, I thought, was I correct that you were purposely not paying attention
No, I
during
was
the
I was
last
kind
round?
of doing technical things and stuff like that, so, or organizational stuff. So it wasn't intention. It wasn't to irritate you. It was just I was doing it on real. And you
So
had the
what did
challenge
you-
of Anish too. You know, kind of technical problems.
So when I wasn't, yeah, I sent you a message. How was that message?
It was a little irritating. So to get these private messages, yeah.
I sent you a message because I thought you were purposely not paying
Mhm.
attention.
Yeah. Yeah, it wasn't purpose. It was I was not paying attention because I was doing my technical kind of stuff. Because I'm kind of a lot of people are dropping in and out. It's like everybody's having trouble. Zach dropped out. Lou dropped out a couple times. You know, Anish, I'm sure. Talia dropped.
Yeah, that's weird. My Wi-Fi was not
I
good.
thought you did really well, Joshua, at holding it and sticking with that. I thought you facilitated really well.
Well,
It's
thank you.
impressive.
Thanks. Yeah, I think you all did a great job.
And you,
it seems
Jenny,
like we're getting. Yeah, it seems like we're getting trained in empathy circles online. Like there's just so many different things that wouldn't happen in real person life, but that we're all kind of handling. So great job. How was your experience, Jenny?
I can't remember. I guess Tooth is gone now. I'm just kind of here. It's good. I mean, it was really interesting doing it and seeing it and watching everybody deal with the little glitches coming in. But you know, when I was the facilitator and you know speaking or listening and somebody was playing up, that's kind of quite a lot to deal with at that moment, if that makes sense, when you kind of doing both roles and somebody's out of order, then it's you know quite hard to hold it all. It's a lot to hold. Yeah.
Yeah, Anne, you're muted.
Anne, you're muted.
Yeah, when Edwin was playing up, when I was facilitating, but when I was also the listener, or no, when I was talking, when it was my turn to speak, it was really quite distracting. Yeah, it was difficult to hold a thought or find a thought at all.
Yeah, I find just being a facilitator, it can't just be a full participant. Like part of me is sort of back, sort of watching. So there's a little bit of stress, feeling of responsibility, and then that responsibility is sort of taking up some of my consciousness. Inhibits just the kind of the ease and flow of being a participant.
Yeah, I mean, it reminds me of like, you know, if you are doing things in person or even online, like that story Zach shared of how an intentional setup can really make a huge difference if you're able to make a space where everyone involved has heard the directions, been there at the beginning, and knows exactly like what's going on. And Edwin, but he said somebody came in like towards the end of the circle and just really started voicing their concerns without having, you know, participated and heard the directions. And so finding better ways, whether it's putting a sign out or, you know, giving people information so they don't have to interrupt the circle. But I think what I'm taking is, you know, how to create that space to help make it easier.
And these problems usually come to kind of when people are new, like after they've done a couple, they kind of sink into it. And you're about to say something, Jenny? No, I think it got frozen. Oh, no. Were you about to say something, Jenny?
I can't remember what it was now.
Oh. Well, we're working on a list of all the challenges. I'm gonna put that link in there for you, and you can add challenges too. I just created it this morning.
It seems like we might need a split of like in-person versus online, since I've never done an in-person one, but all these things you're doing on the background of Zoom like play into it, you know?
Yeah. I mean, you got a lot of challenges with Zoom with, Anish was struggling and technical issues, the audio issues, and people losing their video. I'll put that, you can actually put that in there if you want. If you go into that document, you can open the Google Doc, and then you could add Zoom issues and then kind of type those in.
Yeah.
So the idea is that people can contribute to the challenges, and then maybe create responses, like how people deal with it. And I'm imagining also getting recordings, so you could have a recording of the challenges and how they're dealt with. So really flesh out a whole.
I like that.
Yeah. I'm hoping everyone can contribute to that.
What's really neat, I've been, wait, how much time do we have left here before we go back?
I think 2 minutes.
So I've had this idea that kind of came to me a while ago of this word called empathyology. And the whole thing is like, why can't we just create our own field? You know, like I got a degree in psychology. I got a degree in social work. You know, you could be a psychologist. Why can't we just make our own field? You could become an empathyologist. I'm not going to decide who is an empathyologist when, but you know, there's different stages, and you can be paid as an empathyologist just like a psychologist. You don't need $100,000 of debt, and you can provide a service that's honestly probably better than what they do in counseling by diagnosing you. And the whole cool thing about empathyology is anyone can be in this field. Like, I'm not trademarking that name at all. It's just a new field. And like, I appreciate what you're doing here with the empathy tent. And like, if I wrote a book of empathyology, like, you know, there'd be founding members who are all doing this, and anyone can be a part of it. But why can't we just make our own field?
I think it's a great idea. Yeah. And that it's dealing with relational empathy. It's just not being a healing. It's like, how do you, it's related to the whole culture. How do we transform the whole culture into a more empathic culture? Yeah.
Yeah. And I spell it EMPATH asterisk OLOGY, because it's not the science of empathy. It's not the religion of empathy. It's literally like, because Marshall Rosenberg was a big person in my life, and you know, he got the PhD and found science isn't the only way, and then he looked at religion, and so it could be whatever the hell we want. But we make our own field and we make our own rules, and people begin to believe that this is a viable thing, and they want to seek out a trained empathyologist one day. Who knows? So anyone can be a part of it, and I'm excited to share that with y'all. So yeah, anyone can use it too. It's not trademarkable.
Good vision. Good vision.
Thanks. I got it right before I got into the School of Social Work. I'm like, I don't want to treat wounded soldiers, right? I want to help prevent that from happening and create empathy. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's needed. Yeah.
I really enjoyed hearing your comment, Edwin, about the fact that it isn't recognized, and you know, it's trying to do something positive, but it's just not. There's not a place for it in our the way financial system works. I hadn't kind of thought about that, so I'm glad you shared that. And you presumably you were quite serious about the idea of doing an action in order
Very
to draw
much,
attention.
yeah, very much. We're going back in 1 second.
Yeah, I'm down for that action too. That sounds really fun. I will book a flight out there.
Empathic direct action. So we lost a couple of people because of power outage. Anish and Natalia.
Natalia, okay.
They had power outage there and just couldn't, yeah.
Okay. All right, and I'm gonna stop my recording, okay? All right. Well, welcome back. And we had a pretty good time, I think. We'll see what people say. And Lou, is anything you would like to say to introduce here?
No.
No.
I'm ready for whatever you want to say.
Okay, so what the debrief, we said, what triggers came up for you or what triggers would challenge you even if you didn't experience them in this exercise. So just something, because we'll be doing the next session, it would be very similar to this. So things that came up or didn't come up, or, you know, things would go around, and I don't know, I could go around and then start to call on people. We could do popcorn. Does anybody have like a burning question? No? All right. Okay. Oh, there's Natalia coming back. Okay. So I'll go around then and call on people and just your impression of what happened, things, and also feedback for us, things we could do to improve it or anything like that. Charlotte, would you start us off?
Yeah, I think what we found in our
I'm not
group
hearing
is
Charlotte.
Oh, I am.
Okay.
Okay.
I am
Let me
too.
try it now.
I'm hearing now.
Okay. So what we found in our group is there was some things beyond the circle that we were discussing that's kind of got outside of the circle time. So so my circle got reduced, but I tend to want to speak the last. I tend to want to do something the last, and so I can absorb what's going on. And so that tends to happen in all sorts of places. I tend to want to go last, and sometimes that allows me to have enough time to do it, and sometimes it doesn't because time is used up. And I don't know, I guess I wanted to say there were points that we were making, and I don't know how it got outside of that 5 minutes. So I'm just curious, like logistically, what happened with the time.
Okay. All right. Joshua.
Yeah, so I had a great time just learning, and I had a little bit of a challenge, and Edwin pointed me to the document with Facilitator Issues, and everyone here seemed, I mean, I had pretty bad reception, and so just learning how, you know, being online creates a lot of different issues that might not happen in person. And the biggest thing I took away is just, you know, how to set the scene so that everyone who's involved knows some sort of, here's what might happen when you get booted out, or, you know, just kind of agreed upon, I don't know, interactions so that we can still maintain this circle.
Great. Thanks, Josh. Jenny.
It was the most kind of discomfort I experienced was when, you know, I'm facilitating the circle and I'm participating in the circle, and then somebody, you know, causes a bit of trouble or does something that's not part of the process. Actually holding that and remembering I think I must have been the listener, and then somebody went, it was quite difficult to hold it all at that point. But you know, it's like anything, it's just practice, isn't it? As a whole, it was just lovely to be with people in their struggle, their little bit of struggle around getting it right, you know, and I really appreciate that there's no kind of make wrong or correction or nobody's making it difficult. You know, it's very relaxed sort of way of doing things that I really appreciate. I think that's all I want to say right now.
Okay, great. Thanks, Jenny. Zach?
Yeah, no, that was fun. And I don't really know if I have anything particularly, productive or insightful to say. I think, one thing to just visit on when it comes to like the issue of intervening as facilitator, I just want to share that, like, basically, like when I'm actually doing empathy circles, I found that it's easiest to intervene by just like going right into reflecting what the speaker was just saying. And that kind of like, reduces the awkwardness of like resuming, the speaker's reflection, and after you give a quick reflection, you're modeling it, and then you can go into why, you stepped in, and you can give the reminder like, oh, okay, it didn't quite hear the reflection there. You were kind of giving an opinion, you're asking your question, and then the speaker can just go right back into continuing to speak, and then the listener can try reflecting again the next time.
Great, thanks. MJ?
Yeah, I found that to be a really helpful exercise, and I have a lot more confidence now of like actually facilitating one. I didn't expect to gain so much confidence from one session, so thanks all.
Well, thank you. Katrina?
Yeah, it was very good. We had a little bit of disruption, but it wasn't too extreme. It was manageable, and it was useful to see how other people handled disruption, and get some tips from them. And again, just keep practicing is really good, always good for me. And to listen to other people, it's just a really powerful experience. Thank you.
Thank you, Katrina. Karen?
Yes, it's always interesting to participate to an empathy circle with someone like you, because that makes me think about how it is important to have a co-facilitator when you have to deal with some technical problems or things like that. And yes, it's always a little bit stressful when you have to keep in mind the timer, and you are active listener as well. So that was an interesting exercise. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen. Natalia? Oh, Natalia, I think is frozen.
Yes.
Oh, no, there she is. Oh, you're muted.
I'm here.
Natalia. Oh, there you go. Okay.
Yeah. So I really enjoyed the session. I got a lot of learnings. I'm very grateful for all the sharings, and it was real fun. I think at some point I got carried away, and I'm slightly concerned about Sarah. I made it kind of difficult for her to hold the space. And yeah, overall, grateful for this practice environment where we're not afraid to make mistakes or, yeah.
Great. Thank you, Natalia. Sarah?
It was really fun. Oh, sorry. It was really fun. There was a lot of Luke did such an amazing job, like doing role plays, and Natalia also did a really good job. In terms of like they did like interruptions, and then some like judgments or judgmental responses that were where the facilitator had to jump in and kind of course correct. And yeah, it was just, there was so much lightness of spirit, I really appreciate this.
Thank you, Sarah. Anne?
Yeah, I think the main thing about mine was that I was quite surprised about the level of difficulty for the disruptions that we chose. Most of us chose like 5, and it seemed like it was what was happening was more than 5. I thought it would have been, but Edwin reassured us it was only a 5. And when I was facilitating, I thought Edwin was purposely not paying attention as a passive listener. So I challenged him in the chat to, if he would kindly take part. So, and now I realize that I've been watching Edwin now, that because he's doing technical stuff all the time, and clearly now I've realized he's probably got 2 screens going. And so he's going from side to side. And I thought he was purposely not paying attention. And I guess, like, the challenging things that personally that I did, it would be nice to have some feedback on them, because it's like you're on the spot, you have a go at it, and I don't know how it landed really, because of being caught up in it. So I would have liked some objectivity feedback on it. Objective feedback. Thank you.
Thanks, Anne. Edwin. You're muted, Edwin.
Yeah, in terms, I want to build on what Zach was, what I understand him saying is that for doing correction, it's helpful to do a little empathy first, if you can, sort of have an empathic approach, and then do the correction. So a little bit of empathy and then correction. I noticed that if you get correction, it's a little painful, right? But if you get a little bit of empathy or sort of an empathic attitude, then you get some correction. It kind of makes it smoother, and it kind of models it too. So also, I'm going to put in a link here into the chat window. That's a link to some of the challenges, facilitator challenges, and it's a Google Doc, and you can go in and click on that and add your own, kind of comment and add your own to them. So wanting to start creating a list of these challenges, and maybe have some videos of the challenges, some responses, how do you deal with it? So that's sort of the beginning list there. So everyone feel free to add any challenges. I think Joshua is mentioning the challenges of being in person and online too are going to be different. We had some real life challenges. Anish, he had a power outage there, and he hasn't come back either, even though Natalia's back. So yeah, that's it.
Okay, thanks, Edwin. Lou.
Yeah, so I want to actually speak to Charlotte's question about the time. So it was really my not managing the time well. So we were doing timeouts, which means pausing the circle process to talk about what was happening in that moment and how different ways of responding to it. And that eats up some time doing that. And so I think I did not do a good job of managing the overall time. And so, yeah, Charlotte did not get as much time as others in the circle. So next class session, whoever's circle Charlotte is in, she needs to get extra time. And then the other thing I wanted to say was about what Edwin said about how to intervene as a facilitator. So I think of my interventions as having 3 parts. So the first part is to name what's happening. So I hear you asking a question, or I hear you, I see you're commenting on what this person said or whatever. So you try to name what's happening, and then you give them some empathy for it, what Edwin was saying, and then invite them into what you want them to do. So yeah, so for someone, let's say, who's making a comment, say, or asking a question. So I hear you asking a question, and you're curious about that, and that's fine. When it's your turn to speak, you can ask that question if you want to, but right now your role is to just reflect back what you're hearing. So could you reflect back what you heard said? So that's kind of an example of the 3 components.
Yeah, well, we had fun. I had fun being the major disruptor. And I don't know if that was a 5 or not. I think it was around a 5. And I was really, Again, what I really look for is that it's hard to have all the answers, but I'm looking for people who are asking the right questions. Are people feeling heard? Are people are sharing? Is the overall dynamic happening? And, you know, in my group, everybody really did well with that, whether they're having challenges or not. So that was my comment.
Actually, can I say one more thing, Bill?
Yeah, sure, absolutely.
And so this is a comment about this, you know, the way that we've structured this, where we're letting you practice facilitating and offering you an opportunity to have things go wrong in the circle. And the reason we're doing it this way is because you do not know how you're going to respond until someone does something like that in the circle. And there's an intellectual understanding of how I might respond to this, or you could read in a document if somebody does this, but there's the emotional part of what happens when you're in a circle and all of a sudden somebody does something that, you know, that you have to respond to. And so dealing both with the emotional part of that and the cognitive part of it, which is, what do I say? How do I respond to it? That's what we're trying to give you practice in. And yeah, and you can't, there isn't any way other to grow into that other than actually experiencing it. So that's why we set this up this way.
Okay. All right. Any other questions or issues or something looking ahead to Thursday's session? Or just something maybe you'd like to see in the training, or feedback, or just kind of opening it up towards looking ahead? Anybody has any comments or questions?
I just wanted to ask, the document that Edwin was talking about, is that the same as the one that Lou sent us about the challenges, or is it a separate document?
I copied Lou's challenges, put it into this Google Doc, and it's editable. So you can actually go in and add your own challenges and also comments on each one. So it's something I like to really flesh out those challenges, and maybe even add, like I mentioned, videos and video responses, samples, and we create a really extensive document. This is the beginning of it. So feel free to edit it, make comments in that document.
Okay, thank you.
I wanted to clarify something, Lou, that you were saying. Did you say if someone asks a question of the speaker who's a listener, that they can ask a question in their own speaking round, but they wouldn't be able to ask the question to that particular speaker? They'd be just hypothetically asking the question?
Yeah, and yes. Well, you know, following the rule of, you know, when it's your turn to speak, you can say whatever you want. And so, you know, the way that would normally sound would be like, if I'm the speaker, I would say, boy, you know, what so-and-so just talked about, it really makes me wonder, what about this? Or, boy, I'd sure like to ask you about that. And so maybe when it's your turn, you'll answer my question, but I really want to know this. Now, of course, the other person's not obligated to answer it at all. And the answer is probably not going to come back for 20 minutes because we're going around the circle. But yeah.
Thank you for the clarification.
Okay, any other questions? Okay. All right, well, we're a little bit early here. Edwin, any final remarks that you would like to make?
I'll put in the link to the session evaluation and feedback. Really would appreciate it if you could take a moment after this to go in and fill that out. You can give feedback on each session. And as I understand it, the next session will be a repeat of what we did today, right? So you get a second round of this.
Yes. Lou.
Yeah, that's right. More of this same kind of practice on Thursday, both practicing the intro and practicing facilitating. So,
okay. Anything else, Lou, before we?
I don't. Appreciate everyone's being here and your participation, and really care about all of you, and am excited watching your stepping into facilitation and hearing your growth.
Yeah, and one of the subjects that one of the facilitators was courage, and I just want to recognize and appreciate everyone's courage here. With the human race is facing really severe challenges. And I really, I've certainly chosen this mode to express myself and to try to help make a better world. And I really appreciate it, and it supports me when I see some people so honestly and enthusiastically embracing that. And I really appreciate all of you as well. Edwin.
Yeah, I do want to add one thing, is that we also want to do a train the trainer. So Bill and Lou are facilitating this. We want to, really articulate the, the syllabus for this, and that you can all become trainers as well. So that's part of our intention. You can take this a couple times, and then also we want to kind of prepare you to be trainers. So there is that's sort of the longer term pathway. So
Can I ask, how long have you been doing this? How long has it been going on? How long has this been going on?
How long has this been going on? Sounds like a song. Yeah. I've been at the Empathy working on this topic for about 13 years, I'd say. Yeah.
But is the Zoom thing, has this whole Zoom thing kind of changed it? Has the whole kind of pandemic, crisis in everything changed it a lot? Or are you just...
I was doing a lot online before. I was way back actually the Empathy Circle started with using Google Hangouts back when that was still a thing. So it's been going it started after Occupy Wall Street was when the first Empathy Circle started. So that was 2011, I think.
Yes.
Yeah, and I have less experience than either Edwin or Lou, but I've been doing it for about 2 years or so. But I have been doing it on the street, in farmers markets and things like that. And that is the subject, I think, of further possible trainings, is that in different venues, there are different skill sets and things like that. Edwin has a wonderful tent. We used to bring the empathy tent, and there's a lot of things, to engage people and to get them into conversations. It's harder, for instance, in the midst of, say, a farmer's market, to get 14 people who are going to be doing this like it is here. And so you have to make adaptations and things like that. Okay.
Yeah, and I would say, so I've been doing the specific Empathy Circle work with Edwin like 2.5 years. And I think I've done circles both face-to-face and online, and there are strengths and weaknesses to both venues. I've done empathy circles online that are completely meaningful. So people that think, well, online is kind of like an adaptation, but it's an unfortunate adaptation. You really need to do them face-to-face. I've had some very powerful circles online. So yeah, there's no one right way to do it.
Right, but it's a very adaptable tool that you can use in various things. Okay.
Yeah, one more clarification. With the list of possible interruptions that are happening within the flow, did you probably did, but I don't know. Did you also put example empathy statements to make, or, because I just saw one example from Lou, but is that in the Google Doc too?
No.
I just added Lou's 3 steps, but you can have it.
Oh, okay, good. Thank you. Okay.
I think examples of how to respond probably might be a useful thing to add to the document, but I also think that yeah, I just haven't done that. I mean, on my document, but there isn't one way to respond, really.
Lovely. Yeah, I just wanted a clarification. Thank you.
All right.
I'm grateful for everyone here wanting to facilitate these and to train facilitators and spread empathy. It's really awesome and exciting.
So to end, could you get twinkle fingers? It'll be a good screenshot that we can use for everyone. Sarah, are you there? We need you. Sarah, we need your picture. We need twinkle fingers. We need that. This will go on the thumbnail for the video. So. Okay, thanks everyone.
Okay.